Hi there, this is another Life Over 60 post, and today I want to talk to you about anxiety. There's a particular reason why I want to talk about anxiety today, and that is because I'm really kind of experiencing it. I'm busy preparing, packing to go and see my daughter and her new baby in New Zealand, and public transport is one of the things that I actually have a little bit of a problem with. We all have these things, don't we, that we can be perfectly confident in everything, and then we'll have something that might seem quite weird to other people, although I think this is a fairly common one. I actually missed a plane once and I found out what happens when you miss a plane, and guess what? You don't die. Because I think that has to be the root of all anxiety, doesn't it? That you actually feel as if you're threatened in some way. But on this particular occasion, you know, it cost me £500 to be sorted out. But, you know, at the end of the day, it wasn't a life-challenging thing. I'm kind of I'm worrying about the silliest things, because I think sometimes anxiety tips over into worry, or it's caused by worry, and worry is such a waste of time, isn't it? But my 3-year-old, my granddaughter's going to be 3 when I'm there this month, and then there's a new baby, and of course Christmas is coming, so the whole family have been giving me presents to take over, and although they've all been considerate and got light things and not too big things, and my whole suitcase seems to be taken up with presents. So I've probably got room for my pants and my nightie and my swimsuit. And my daughter, who's ordered herself a pair of shoes for me to bring and some garden cushion covers, because apparently they're cheaper here, said, "Oh, you can borrow my clothes." Thanks, but not for a month, eh? Anyway, let's talk about anxiety, and let's talk about some of the things we can do about it. When I went through the whole, 40s, 50s, that was one of my main things that I noticed when I went into perimenopause. All of a sudden, I had that pit of anxiety all the time, that chronic anxiety. And we can suffer from acute anxiety, which is normally for things that are obvious, like, catching a plane or a job interview, or maybe you've got to have a difficult conversation with somebody. And sometimes in those situations, a little bit of anxiety is actually good for you, because it gets you sort of doing the things that you need to do and sort out. But chronic anxiety, that's a bit more insidious and sometimes a little bit more nebulous as well. Sometimes you don't even kind of know. There's a condition, isn't there? GAD, general anxiety disorder. And you don't even know what you're anxious about, but you just have that feeling of anxiety all the time. That also can be associated with worry, and sometimes it's external, like the political situation. I know that my American friends waiting for the election to happen as I record this today, we're a few days out from the US 2024 election. The things that you can't do anything about can cause anxiety and just cause you to live in that state of anxious anticipation, where you feel as if you're under threat. But of course, there's no saber-toothed tiger there. We don't really need this rush of adrenaline and the cortisol rushing through our bodies all the time. But that's the way biologically we react to any kind of stress, whether real or perceived. Things like global warming. We might go and do our bit and do what we can, but we can't really affect much individually. And, the wars that are going on at the moment, and just feeling for the children and the women and the young men and women who are being sent on behalf of their countries to fight, because it's governments that make wars, not people. And that can cause anxiety. So those are the external things. And then there's the internal things. When on the video that I did about growing older, the new old, no, not that one. The one that I did on 10 things I've given up, and I said I've given up worrying about growing older. Well, of course I haven't all the time, but I consciously try not to worry about growing older. But that's one of those nebulous things that a lot of us feel in the back of your mind, and it's that constant anxiety. Am I going to get sick? How am I going to live on a pension? That kind of thing. But again, that's something that's concrete. How am I going to live on a pension? That's concrete. But, what about things like loved ones? I remember when my children were going through like sort of teen years and what have you. And I always had that constant pit of worry in my stomach. And after they'd left home, I would wake up some mornings and I would just to soothe myself, I would say, right, so-and-so is so-and-so, I know they're okay, and he's doing that, I know he's okay, and I'll give her a ring, because, I just had to go through that role in my head just to soothe my own anxiety. But sometimes there's just no particular reason. So I'd love to know, how do you experience anxiety if you experience it? Because there are various symptoms, aren't there? There are physical ones and there are emotional symptoms. And I want to come to solutions as well. But if we just run through quickly, I find that I breathe more shallowly. So you're breathing from up here, and it's almost holding your breath at times because you feel anxious. Not sleeping, that can be a sign of anxiety. That whole waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning thing can be caused by anxiety, an underlying anxiety that you might not even be aware of, but actually your body is telling you you're anxious, do something about it. And then there's the palpitations. Have you ever experienced that, where your heart starts to race and you think, oh, all I did was get up from my chair, what's going on? Sometimes it's because you're completely unfit. I have had that happen to me, but normally it's because I'm anxious. And then there's rumination, where you just go over the same thing over and over and over in your mind, driving yourself completely mad. Sometimes I've felt as if I just want to get a big spoon and scoop out all the sludge in my brain that's kind of clogging it up, because then that makes brain fog worse. And you just can't get off that track of what you're thinking about and what's making you anxious. And then catastrophizing. Oh my goodness, I'm good at that. Oh, but what if my plane crashes? Oh, but what if I miss my plane? But if this happens, if that happens, and then procrastination. That's a big one for me. I mean, I'm flying on Tuesday, and it is not like me to be packing 2 days early, but I know myself so well. I procrastinate, I put things off. It was like, creating this channel. I'd created my YouTube channel, but I knew that I needed to talk to you directly. I knew that would, that was needed, that we all need connection now, and to talk to each other and feel as if we're not alone in some of the things that we're all going through. But I kept putting it off. There was always a reason. I needed to get my hair cut, which I did yesterday. You like it? This is 1 day old hair, but I think she did quite a good job. Got my eyebrows darkened, and sorry, I knocked the table, and now you're wibbling. Sorry about that. It's a really unstable sort of like tripod thing I've got there. And my eyelashes dyed, so things you think you have to do. Normally I do things like I clean the house from top to bottom, because I want to come home to clean sheets and a clean bathroom and things like that. And this time, of course, I'm going on my own, so there'll be other people living in the house, and I've had to just go, come on, Joe, just let go. They can sort themselves out. It's all going to be fine. And even if you come back and your sheets need changing, that's, an easy fix to say, darling, you need to change the sheets. I even do it myself, you never know. So let's get on to solutions, because we don't want to sort of dwell on the negative and those feelings, do we? I forgot on the physical symptoms, the upset stomach. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. When I used to shoot weddings, one of the reasons I stopped, my husband said to me once, he said, why are you doing this to yourself? You don't actually need to do this to yourself. And about 2 days before every wedding, my stomach would get upset. And then on the day of the wedding, when I had to be there at a certain time, I couldn't get out the toilet. And it was horrendous. And then, of course, you get to the stage where you're worried that you're going to need to be in the toilet. So that sends you off to the toilet. And too much information. Yeah, let's move on. Let's go to solutions. So the first thing that I've learned is breathing, and breathing more slowly and more deeply, because your body thinks you're in danger, so it's going to give you those symptoms of anxiety. So what I do is I take a deep breath in and then let my breath out, but I let it out more slowly and for longer than I'm breathing in. Do it with me if you're feeling anxious at the moment. So it's like, for as long as I can. A little noise came out there. If you do that several times, you cannot stay in that fight or flight state. because you've taken the oxygen into your body, and your body, as I say, knows it doesn't have to run, so it will relax. And eventually that will get through to your brain that is, you know, going 10 to the dozen. So that's my first thing that I do. The second thing that I do, and I often do this in between times as well, is there's a little mantra that I run in my head. All is well. You're okay. I might even go, you're okay, love. You're okay. And I treat myself like I would treat one of my grandchildren when they're worried, you know, and I actually give myself a hug or a stroke and soothe myself. But it's the words going through my mind. I will say it if I need to over and over again. It's okay. Everything's going to be all right. Everything is all right. Because, of course, it's important to bring it into the present tense. But sometimes you can't do that. It's going to be all right. It is all right. And you know it is all right. These things that we're anxious about, it's very rare, unless you are in a war zone or something, it's very rare that these things are saber-toothed tiger-like, you know. So that's the second thing that I do, this mantra. And then the third one is, if you're somebody who ruminates or catastrophizes rather, you know, what if this happens? What if this happens? I actually do some disaster planning. I read once that, and my kids think I'm mad for this, because I always say to them, if I'm on a plane with my kids, I'll go, that's your nearest that's your nearest exit on the plane. Or if we're somewhere, I'll point out the fire exit. And, you know, it sounds like I'm completely mad, but I read somewhere that statistically, you're more likely to survive a disaster if you have already thought about what you would do in case of emergency. So it's something I naturally do. I go into a hotel room and I have a look at the little map about where my nearest fire exit is, and I'll open the hotel door and I go, oh, right, it's that way. And that way, if you wake up in a panic with smoke in the room, you haven't got that thought process, oh my God, which way will I go? You haven't got that panic. Your brain, it automatically says go right or whatever. This is a theory anyway. I haven't had to test it, thank goodness. So I follow through on those unwanted thoughts, on that rumination, of course. So if this happens, I'll do this. So if I miss my flight, I will go straight to the desk and ask them to help me. If this, you know, if I've forgotten my medication, I will phone my daughter and ask her to make me an appointment at her doctor's surgery in New Zealand. All those kinds of things. So I kind of, you know, forward plan it as if it's going to happen. And actually that conversely has that effect of soothing my anxiety. And then finally, for me, lists are my lifesaver. So I have a packing list for my suitcase. So I actually have on my phone, you know, like it can have a list up, and I have a weekend trip packing. So I've actually put down there how many pairs of pants I need, how many pairs of socks, how many, you know, what to take. I might do a shopping list. So tomorrow I need to go out and grab a few things. And if you're interested, I'll share that in another video. And just things like, yes, and then packing for my trip. I do things like print out my tickets, which, you know, everybody laughs at. My husband does this. He always has a plastic folder, and, you know, everybody else has got it on their phone. I've got it on my phone. But he's absolutely right, and I will do it for this trip, although I won't have a plastic folder. I'm not going to go that far. But I will put it in the front of my hand luggage, just in case internet goes down or my phone runs out of battery because I've forgotten to charge it. Always possible. And I've got that backup. I've got a bit of paper with my flight number on it and you know, the proof that I've paid for it and so on. So that's what I do to soothe my anxiety. And by the time I'm through security and I've found out where my gate is, I will start to relax. And once I'm on that first plane, I will be fine. And I know I'll be fine. It's not the actual process of traveling that I don't like. It is a long journey. I'm going to be about 26 hours in total and 3 planes. So I've got to find got to find 3 gates. You can see now I'm starting to ruminate and it's all going around in my head. So I'll go and write all those things down, you know, Terminal 1. This is how I missed my plane, you see. I hadn't written down which terminal I was going to, and I ended up going to the wrong terminal. There we go. I was supposed to be going to Nashville, flying to Nashville, and I ended up in Minnesota. as a stopover on my new flight. Anyway, that's it from me today. Let me know what makes you anxious, but more importantly, please let me know how you deal with it, because that'll help other people. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and all that stuff, or share it with friends that you know that suffer from anxiety. I noticed the other day, I had a look at my figures, and something like 82% of people that watch my videos haven't subscribed. Please do that for me. It helps me to grow the channel. And also, if you press the little bell, you'll get a notification when I'm posting. But you don't have to press the bell, so it's not like you're going to be pinged every time that I start chatting. But please do subscribe. That's me. I'm going to stop. I need to go and pack. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.